What is going on, A to Z Sports? We are here. We are live. Let me throw that up for you. There we go. Now we are back. A lot of technical difficulties this morning. Easton, your laptop just decided it was done, not working
I
here.
hope not, but it seems like that's the case so far.
A worst time of year possible for Elon to have X.com not functioning, and worst time of year possible for Easton's laptop to decide to stop working.
Great couple
Nevertheless,
days.
we are powering through. We apologize for the delay profusely this morning. Gonna have a good show regardless because free agency is here. It is open. The Titans made a slew of signings yesterday. We'll kind of recap everything that happened yesterday throughout the day in the NFL. What the Titans did, get your thoughts, big picture, and grade some of these moves. And then what now? What next? Where do the Titans go? Because more talent is still out there. More moves are still to be made. So that's what we have. Great loaded show here on a Tuesday morning. Before we get into it, Easton, tell everybody what they got to do.
Yeah, you guys got to like the show for us this morning. Help us out. We need it in a bad way. Hit that like button on Facebook, on YouTube. Help us out. You know the deal. When it's Sam and I on the show, we have to hit a likes quota or else we get fired. And then we become homeless. And when you see us on the side of the highway, you'll know it's your fault for not liking the show. So like the show for us this morning, and we'll get going on some big free agency recap.
All right, let's do it. Let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports live on a Tuesday morning, every weekday morning at 8 Central Time, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show tweeted out segment by segment on the Twitter X timeline as well. That's at ATOZ Sports. You can repost us there. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok for more Titans coverage. You can also leave a 5-star Google review for A to Z Sports. Got to thank our sponsors this morning for making the show happen for us while helping out all of you. They are Wilson County Hyundai. Make Wilson County Hyundai a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon or at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Boneandjointtn.org is where to go to visit them. And our friends at Bart Durham Injury Law, because a crash can change your life forever, and help is just one click away at bartdurham.com. Okay. NFL free agency is here. The Titans, Easton, I think we were both on the same page that we did not expect the Titans to be loud in terms of like the top players for some of the top players on the market, but we expected them to be active. The message that we had gotten from Mike Borgonzi and this new regime was that, hey, we are going to be more selective in free agency this year. What does selective mean? Well, to me, to you, to a lot of people, I think it meant we're not going to be signing the best wide receiver on the market and just playing in the top free agent pool for all of these positions of need and trying to address every hole on the roster with an elite player. Would you say the Titans lived up to your expectations on day one of free agency?
Yeah, I think I was expecting, day one is when we get the biggest deals. The big money guys go first, and that's wave one. And wave two and three, we see guys trickle out with smaller and smaller deals the next couple of weeks. And so whatever you do on day one tends to be the bigger money guys, and it's downhill from there. So I figured they'd have somebody at a premium position that we're going to talk more about this in a little bit, but they had to address a premium position in free agency in a meaningful way to make the math work on their offseason. They did that yesterday, made one big splash signing, made a second signing that was a multi-year deal, but $7 million a year with the new cap. That's we're still adjusting our minds, I think, but we're going to come to realize that's close to nothing. That's a drop in the bucket at this point. And so, a pair of deals, one of which is they're big. It's just like going to the Scholastics book fair. Mom and dad say, hey, you get one big item and then just candy the rest of the way. And that's what the Titans have done.
I like that. Here's a look at the Titans free agent signings from day one of free agency. A lot of players being brought back here. Long snapper Morgan Cox on a one-year deal. Andrew Rupcich, Darrell Baker, both agreed to contract extensions with the Titans. And then Sebastian Joseph Day re-signed on a one-year contract worth up to $7.5 million. So another piece to that defensive line for Jannard Wilson. The two newcomers, the splash signing, your one big bookstore item that you bring up, Easton, is left tackle Dan Moore on a 4-year, $82 million contract with $51 million guaranteed. Linebacker Cody Barton as well on a 3-year, $21 million deal. We figured linebacker, offensive line, offensive tackles more specifically would be positions that the Titans addressed, and they did so. Now, I know that you, and we've kind of titled the show off of this, you've noted both of these guys somewhat controversial signings by nature.
Yeah, and I think both are guys that weren't the sexiest name at their position. They were both longer term deals than I think a lot of fans wanted them to be. And with Dan Moore in particular, it's a deal that's a lot of money for a guy who people have questions about the caliber of player that he is.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to spend a lot of time on all of these moves. We're not going to do a deep dive on the Dan Moore situation today necessarily, but just off the top, the way that I feel about this is that, and I saw somebody in the comments a moment ago say, there's no way other teams were fighting to pay Dan Moore $20 million a year. Yeah, way. I had privileged conversations yesterday with some folks involved in this situation. I can tell you for a fact that there was a multi-team bidding war for Dan Moore. And the reason why, the reason I bring that up is because this is a really simple story to me, Sam. In the NFL today, it is really, really freaking difficult to find average tackle play. And so the Titans went and found an average tackle who they're paying like a very, very good to great tackle, because finding an average tackle is really freaking hard. And they need somebody to shore up a massive, massive hole on their offensive line, which is going to come into play for a young quarterback either this year or next when they're trying to reset this team.
I think the thing that is surprising about the Dan Moore signing for people is what we were told about and also in as you mentioned, privileged conversations, right? Like I've been told in privileged conversations, hey, Titans, we're not going to make a play for Ronnie Stanley. We're out on Ronnie Stanley. You gave Dan Moore a bigger deal than Ronnie Stanley got to go back to the Ravens. So if you were out on Ronnie Stanley and you were sort of out on the elite tackles, but you were still looking for a solid player, there is a big jump, at least. I mean, Jalen Moore, who goes to the Kansas City Chiefs from the 49ers, he gets $15 million in AAV. Morgan Moses, a right tackle, gets $8 million. It is a big jump to Dan Moore at 20.5 per year on a 4-year, $82 million deal. It might be more than Tyron Smith gets. It might be more than Cam Robinson gets. Some of these top talents, we could finish the offseason and say that the Titans signed the most expensive offensive tackle of the entire offseason. And that, I think, is a contradiction from what I expected or what I was told and what Titans fans probably anticipated. And so I think if you told a Titans fan coming into the offseason, hey, you are going to sign the most expensive, the biggest contract to an offensive tackle on the free agent market, they probably would have given you 2 thumbs up, but they probably wouldn't have thought that it was going to be Dan Moore.
Right. And so I think the context is key here, right? Because Morgan Moses got what he got to go to New England. He is 35 years old with a pair of legs that might not work. What's the other Moore that went to Kansas City? What's his first name? Jalen Moore. Jalen Moore went to Kansas City for a $15 million shorter term deal. He
started like 6 games.
12, but yes, he started. Yeah, he's. I mean, it's this. We're talking about like backup level, Andre Dillard level competition. Like Dan Moore played 1,100 snaps last year at left tackle. Different caliber of reliability. And then we saw Ronnie Stanley go back to Baltimore to stay. He took a deal to go and stay on a team that has been his team and is a competitive team. Like he took a little bit of a hometown discount there.
Yeah, well, and you talk about reliability for Dan Moore. I mean, games played, it's 16-17, 16-17. Like the guy has been available. And so I do think there is something to, as you said, even if it's average tackle play, average solid tackle play that's available for 16-17 games a year. What did we know the Titans were going to get? Well, the message that I got from the Titans about what they were looking for, they didn't care if it was a left tackle or a right tackle. Correct. They wanted the best, most consistent player possible, and J.C. Latham's versatility gives them the ability to do that. I will say, I do straight up like this move over what a lot of teams are doing, the Bears, probably most notably over the last 2 weeks, of paying big capital for interior linemen, which seems to be a trend that's happening in this offseason. I mean, Will Freeze is going to get a bag.
He just got a bag as we're
did he
speaking.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah,
What'd he get?
I don't know. I saw he went to the Vikings. I did not see for how much.
Vikings have agreed with Will Freeze. Let's see if we've got terms available here. I don't think we have terms out yet, but I mean, I don't think it's crazy to think he should be over $80 million. It might be $100 million for Will. Like, I mean, depending on how
I don't know what his medicals are, so I have no idea. I wouldn't be surprised by anything. But your point stands that it's a lot of guys on the inside being paid a lot of money.
Oh, it is. It's 5 years, $88 million for Will Freeze to go to the Vikings. Yeah, that's a bag. That is a bag for Will Freeze. Interior linemen are going at that rate. If you ask me, would I rather the Titans pay a right guard to that kind of sign a right guard to that kind of a contract to fill that hole, or try to bring Dylan Radins back on a 1 or 2 year deal? I would much rather bring back Dylan Radins on a shorter term deal and spend bigger at the tackle position that was so detrimental. Yes. What we learned about the Titans last year is that I think you can overcome a really weak guard at times in this league. Like good tackle play and a solid center can make up for some really bad guard play at times. A detrimental hole at tackle it basically makes a good guard look like a bad guard while simultaneously having a bad tackle. It breaks down an entire side of the football field.
Yeah, to break that down even further, I think the way that I feel about it is an average tackle can paste over the deficiencies of a bad guard much easier than a really good guard can paste over the deficiencies of a bad tackle.
Yeah.
Right? It takes a truly dominant elite guard to be able to do their job and make up for the deficiencies of, just off the top of my head, MPF on their right side.
Yeah, I think what the Titans are banking on is just that this year, right? If you look at what this offensive line, let's assume they re-sign Dylan Radins. Let's
somebody in his tier, right? Somebody like Radins.
Maybe it's a rookie who you feel like is same quality at the right guard position. I think you were banking on Peter Skoronski, who they really liked in the back half of the 2024 season, taking another step, continuing to develop. Peter Skoronski and Lloyd Cushenberry being excellent offensive linemen. You get average play from your left tackle and Dan Moore, and then you hope J.C. Latham now excels into a really good right tackle at his more natural position while you have a fine right guard. And if you've got 3 guys playing above average football on your offensive line and a couple guys who are fine, I think you're putting yourself in a position to succeed. You might not have the most dominant offensive line that controls and dominates football games, but I don't think it would be a storyline of your team's failure. And I think that's what they're looking to do in 2025.
Yeah, side note on that, by the way, brought it up to somebody in the building yesterday, because I saw some folks on the internet taking this to mean, well, here's the Titans' admission that they were wrong about the left tackle thing.
I'm actually working on a story about this on A to Z Sports. Right, it'll come out like an hour after the show.
And through the phone, I saw this person's eyes roll so far into the back of their head, I wasn't sure they were going to come back to the front. That is not the point here. That's not what has happened here. It's not that J.C. Latham. It's not that they were blowing smoke the whole time about J.C. Latham being a left tackle. This is about J.C. Latham being on an elite trajectory to be a whatever you need him to be tackle. He's a two-way player in that way. And when you get a guy in, again, Dan Moore played 1,111 snaps last year. All but one of them were at left tackle, and he played 1 snap at tight end. So the guy's going to play left tackle. He's not versatile in that way. J.C. Latham played right tackle in college, played left tackle in high school, played left tackle in the NFL last year, and he's going to play right tackle in the NFL this year. He can do it all, and he is. This is something that was told me in the building. Like he is a more natural right tackle, but he is a good enough tackle that he can be above average at either position. And so this is going to be a force multiplier move for the Titans.
We knew that he was a better right tackle and a more right tackle. The Titans' goal with Latham moving him to left tackle was always to maximize value. There is no question that a left tackle is more valuable than a right tackle, although I do think that gap is sort of becoming
Absolutely.
narrower as the league progresses.
It's literally just a blindside thing at this point. It's not about talent of edge.
You'd still rather have a better left tackle, probably, just for the blindside side of things. But I think what the Titans were really attracted to about JC Latham when they drafted him was the versatility, was the ability to be a whatever you need guy. And I think that's what made them more optimistic heading into this offseason, that they'd be able to solve this offensive line puzzle, because you were not forced into, I hope 35-year-old Morgan Moses can still do it. You weren't forced into, hey, we have to take a right tackle in the second round or the first round of the draft and then just like hope that the rookie gets it right away.
A tackle class, by the way, that they don't like. They don't like.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a great class. You've got some high-end talent.
The top tackle's not actually a tackle, and then Armand Membou's pretty good, and then it's a bunch of
all the top tackles are not actually tackles. Like, you know, like the seriously though, like the 3 or 4 guys in the class that have the best resume, I would say college resume, and best, most successful college tape have really short arms that you don't know if you love to see at tackle. So I don't know. I think it's less about JC Latham. It's more about everything else. And in my opinion, I don't care. Like, if Dan Moore can only play left tackle and he plays fine left tackle, and then JC Latham is an awesome right tackle, it's not really different to me than having an awesome left tackle and a fine right tackle, which is what the goal was heading into the offseason regardless. I think that it can work. All of this being said, all right, we kind of talked a lot about Dan Moore there. Of course,
we'll do a Dan Moore deep dive later this week. Don't worry.
That's the big ticket item, so I think it makes sense for us to spend a little time there. But again, Titans bring back Morgan Cox on a 1-year deal, Sebastian Joseph Day on a 1-year deal, Daryl Baker, Andrew Rupsich re-sign with the team on contract extensions. Baker was a guy who, I really liked last year as a potential, like, what, 5th corner now, 4th corner, but like
useful player,
can play some teams. And if you need him in a pinch to play on your defense, he proved that he can. So Cody Barton is the linebacker addition the Titans make.
Hey, by the way, love getting Sebastian Joseph Day back. Just nothing to say there besides they love him so much. He's a great locker room guy. I'm glad they got him back. Big move.
I don't know how great he is, but they love him.
I think he's a really useful player. I think he's a rotational guy. He's exactly what you want him to be. And
I mean,
1 year, 7.5. That's worth it all day, twice on Sundays.
Totally. If you can solve the edge problem, Sebastian Joseph Day is a lot like Arden Key to me, which is like, we really like this player if he's used how he's supposed to be used. And the problem that the Titans had in 2024 was they just had like bad edge play and at times bad defensive line play because of injuries, that you were using these dudes in ways that they were not supposed to be used. And then people are pointing, being like, oh, Sebastian Joseph Day is not very good. It's like, he's just not supposed to be like a pass rusher that you're trying to use on first down. Like that's just not his spot. So if you can address edge, you probably need 2 edges right now. And if
you do need 2 edges. You need to sign somebody. You need to draft somebody.
Yes. So, anyways, Sebastian Joseph Day back. Cody Barton is the linebacker addition. I saw him referred to as more expensive Jack Gibbons, which I don't know is.
I think that's crazy. That's my buddy Zach Lyons over at 104.5. I think he's a hater on this. I think he's going to be proven wrong. Our buddy James Foster did a pretty detailed breakdown on Twitter that I suggest people go look at. He actually watched all of his snaps and gave some good scouting notes on what I think is going to be, again, a useful player on a $7 million a year contract who is not going to break the bank. They're still, the bottom line is, if the Titans don't have some rookie development from the guys they have in the pipeline on the team already, then their linebacker position is going to be a problem for the foreseeable future. But Barton is going to be a really nice stopgap guy, I think, in that way for the time being.
Yeah, he's a plug and play guy. I think, the one issue I would have with it is his weakness is coverage, which is also Kenneth Murray's weakness, which is also Jack Gibbons' weakness, which is what they kind of needed.
I'm not sure it's actually a weakness. I think people looked at the PFF score and assumed it was a weakness. And to hand up, kind of did the same thing until I started watching him. PFF's, if we talk all the time about PFF, what to trust, what to not trust, and the grade is an easy like way to just kind of cheat a little bit and just look. One of the least useful things on PFF, just kind of as a PSA here, is their coverage grade. The way that they do coverage grading, especially for box safeties and linebackers, is dumb. For example, like half of the coverage snaps for Barton last year as a linebacker were throws to the flat and throws screens, where he's technically the only one on assignment. But you're not you're not jumping that route. You're just making a tackle. And
Yeah.
so it counts as a completion and it goes against your completion percentage, but like, and PFF knocks you for that. That's dumb. That's stupid. So when you watch the tape, I don't see is he a coverage savant? Like, is that his strength? No. But is he a liability in coverage like Murray is? I don't think that he
I
is.
I, I don't know. I just don't know if he can man cover, which I think is what they need at the
And you're
position.
not getting that for $7 million a year. Yeah, you're not getting a true
No, that's
strong
fair,
man
but like,
coverage guy.
what did we talk? Like, what their defense lacked when they collapsed last year towards the back half is when Ernest Jones was no longer there,
Yep.
and you no longer had a backer that could play man coverage. And so
Right.
I think that's what I was hoping to see them add. Barton knows how to find the football. I don't think he's as bad in coverage as people think, but it is certainly he's a better run stopper than a coverage guy.
Probably.
And I think like Jack Gibbons is a worse athlete than Cody Barton is. Also has a good nose for the football, though, and knows where to be and knows how to fill. Good run defender, Jack Gibbons. The problem is every time Jack Gibbons has a great game where you're like, wow, look at all that he did against the run, he'll have a game where he gets exposed in coverage and it brings back all of these problems. So maybe the draft, maybe there's another signing out there. Maybe it's Otis Reese in development, a former safety. Maybe it's James Williams.
It's
Taking
James
another
Williams
step.
and Cedric Gray figuring it out. That's the key. They have to.
Yeah. I mean, James Williams is another former safety that, was kind of drafted as a safety that they really wanted to use as a linebacker. And those are the types of athletes that you need to excel as your coverage guys. So they have to develop them. I like what you said there, that when you're a 3-14 team, you're not able to just like slap a sticker of free agency on a position that is like an inherent organizational problem that you don't have a huge pipeline for. You're going to have to develop some of the younger players that have the tools for it.
They already have nearly $10 million of money on the books towards a linebacker, the majority going towards Kenneth Murray. I just don't think it would have made team building, team cycle sense to have gone and gotten an Ernest or a Dre Greenlaw, have $20 million on the books towards linebacker for a couple of veteran guys. I don't think that's the spot they're in. I think they're in a spot where they need a stopgap and they need to rely on these guys to develop who they spent real draft capital on.
Well, what did Dre Greenlaw get?
Just under 12.
Just under 12. So, I mean, I do think it is fair for Titans fans to look up and say, extra $4 million to upgrade from Cody Barton to Dre Greenlaw. Like Dre Greenlaw, who does have that coverage ability that we are like,
and also didn't play last year.
True.
Didn't play last year. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like if he had played last year, I think it'd been a different story. If Ernest Jones had, if they hadn't gotten that trade with Seattle and he was still around and was a pending Titans free agent, I think maybe it's a different story. But here's where we are.
Yeah. American Top wants to know, is this a live show? Yes, it is, sir. Live weekday mornings around 8 Central Time, or 8:20 if we have severe technical difficulties. Anyways, let's go ahead. We've I feel like talked about all of it. We've talked about Dan Moore. We've talked briefly about some of the guys that they brought back. We hit on Cody Barton. Let's ask the first question today. Very simply, let's grade these moves. Grade the Titans' moves on day one of NFL free agency in the chat. Let's see those grades. How do you feel about your first taste of the Mike Borgonzi era with some grades? While you guys do that, I'm going to tell you all about our friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law. Can I find it? There it is. We're doing solo dolo here this morning because Easton is a little bit out of it on the phone. No,
Yeah,
unable to contribute to this.
I'm just staring at it. I'm flying blind out here. Yeah.
All right. Well, Bart Durham Injury Law, they're our friends because a crash can change your life forever, and help is a click away at bartdurham.com. For your big truck wreck is our fight for justice over at Bart Durham. A crash can change your life forever, and you deserve to be paid. Attorneys are available to meet with you wherever is most convenient, including virtually. Visit the website at bartdurham.com for current news, blogs, and to contact the live chat. They've been in business since 1975. They've got years of experience dealing with all kinds of wrecks, located in Capitol View, Nashville, and are local, but they can fight for anyone, Kentucky, Tennessee, that's been in an auto accident. Again, that's bartdurham.com for Bart Durham Injury Law.
There's so much more to say, but first, make sure you have liked the show for us this morning. Help us out. Hit like on Facebook, on YouTube. It is free. It is easy. Just click that thumbs up button. It's the easiest way that you can become a friend of the program this morning. Like the show. All right, let's look at some grades.
All right. Well, I think our title is proving true here, Easton, when we say that the Titans made a pair of controversial free agent signings, because first look at the grades. We're a little bit all over the place. We have Eric comes in with a B, and Nick is at a B. We've got C minus, C, B, B minus, a lot of B's from Ryan, American Tough, a D minus from Caps, B,
Whoa.
C, C, solid B, overall C plus, D minus, a D, a B from Rashid, a C from Jackson, C, B, C plus, F, C, C plus, B. Moore gets a B plus. Barton is a C plus. We've got an F from Troy, a C minus from Larry, a solid C. A lot of people in this C range, a few people down at F. Nick's at a B plus. I don't know, probably the median, C plus maybe, because of the C, C plus, C minus, C plus.
That sounds right.
Jonathan says A because we're filling needs. Jason says A plus. You greatly improved the offensive line. But our range is everywhere from some A's to some D minuses to some F's to probably an average of like a C plus. Where would you put this for yourself, Easton?
I think it was a B for day one. I think that there was some necessary evil in terms of overpaying. I think when you are a 3-14 team, you have to pay the we suck tax. And we also are still all calibrating our minds to the new salary cap and what the new 2 is 4, the new 4 is 7 when it comes to these smaller deals. We'll get there eventually. I think folks will come around on what some of these numbers mean. You signed your big ticket item. You signed a tackle who is going to be capable of handling 95% of the league, and against the truly elite edge rushers, he's going to get worked and handed his butt, and that's the way that, newsflash, something somebody in the building told me yesterday. Most of the league gets killed by Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa and Myles Garrett and TJ Watt and Trey Hendrickson. Yeah. Like, it turns out most tackles get killed by those guys.
It's my favorite. It was my favorite thing maybe of the entire day of Titans signed Dan Moore, and people were like, well, I got to tell you what, I just watched this guy match up with Myles Garrett, and he had problems. Newsflash.
Watch Myles against anybody. Watch him play anybody. He kills all of them.
Newsflash, that guy's pretty good. Like he tends to get after the quarterback.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is always
it's a B from me. I think it's a fine day.
It's a C from me. I am, and I'm using C as like the kind of similar to what you said of fine. To me, it's just like average. I'm at C, and I can't go to B because I can't say I'm enthused about either one of the signings that they made. I think the only thing that surprised me for the entire day was how much money they spent on Dan Moore. Which is not a good thing. Like if the one thing that I was surprised, like last year, there was a lot to get excited about. Like Calvin Ridley being a signing was never something I thought the Titans would do. And they went out and they played and they went and made a big move. I wasn't expecting that. I didn't get that. The one thing that surprised me was how much money they spent on a left tackle. I'm not super crazy. I'm not negative about either one of the players that they brought in Barton or Dan Moore. I'm not negative about bringing back Sebastian Joseph Day. I think all of it is fine and about what I expected and is a necessary evil for a team that just needs players to sort of fit into what they want to do. So I'm at a C. And I think we can transition here a little bit more, almost directly into our next question.
Sure.
I'll just go ahead and ask it, because I will say, Easton, what I was more intrigued by was not the players that they got, was not the role that they're going to have for the Titans in 2025. It was not the trajectory of the organization as a win now team or whatever it is, but what it says about the roster building philosophy in Nashville. That was more of the bigger takeaway from the entire day for me. And I'm curious now how the moves that are still to come will also fall in line with the theory that I have. So I want to ask the chat, what did we learn about the Titans in day one of free agency? You know, you've given your grades on how you feel about the signings, but what did we learn about the Titans as ownership, as a front office, as an organization moving forward? What did you learn about the Titans? While you guys let me know, I'm going to tell you all about my good friends over at the Bone and Joint Institute. Who needs to see the Bone and Joint Institute? Maybe Dre Greenlaw. Maybe he would have gotten a little bit more money had he seen the Bone and Joint Institute. Will Freeze. Yeah, although he got a bag regardless, so he might be okay. Bone and Joint Institute, don't fumble on your recovery. They're the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. Go to boneandjointtn.org, because whenever you get hurt in life, you have to know who to trust. The Bone and Joint Institute is located in Franklin with over a dozen specialists who can help you through any type of injury. They have a state-of-the-art rehab facility to assist in your recovery, and it's all under one roof, one campus, rehab, imaging, surgery, testing, clinic. It's all there, maximum convenience right off the highway in Franklin. Schedule your appointment and go to boneandjointtn.org.
There's so much more to say, but first, make sure you have left us a 5-star Google review. Go to Google, search ATOZ Sports. Find our company thing at the top of the page. It'll say A to Z Sports and give information and contact and everything. You'll see a thing on there that says review. Hit review, hit 5 stars, say whatever the heck you want in the comments, and hit send. That's the best way that you can help us on Google, help us as a company. If you want to be a friend of not just the show, but of all of the good things we're trying to do over here at A to Z Sports, leave us a 5-star review on Google. It really does matter for traffic and all of these things on the internet that I don't fully understand, but I'm being told, they're telling me in my ear, it's very important. So go do it.
All right. We asked you guys, what did we learn about the Titans on day one of NFL free agency with the signings of Cody Barton and Dan Moore, re-signing Sebastian Joseph Day, among some other moves. Let's see what we've got here in the chat. Excuse me. Ramon says, nobody wants to come to the Titans. That's what we learned. I think this is fair. I mean, right.
Would you?
I mean, it's the suck tax, right? Would you, Ramon? Like, for real. I think when you are a bad team, when you're 3-14, there are two things that you can offer a player: an opportunity to play and more money than everybody else. Those are the things that you bring to the table. Maybe, and I do think
I would argue 3 things: more money, opportunity to play, and more money.
Yeah. I mean,
and maybe a 4th one, more money.
And I think the Titans maybe a serious, maybe 5th one there is like where you're located could maybe matter in some instances. Having a city like Nashville, I think, can be attractive to some players where they want to come play here. More like, would you rather play in Green Bay or Minnesota or Nashville, just in terms of, like, you know, living?
Jacksonville or Nashville? What do you think?
Right, exactly. So I think that those are what you bring to the table. But at the end of the day, my thought with Titans free agency has always been just this. What Ramon says is that this offseason in particular, when you've got an unproven head coach, a first-year GM, you're coming off a 3-14 season, it's all sort of kind of ugly. What you have to sell guys on is either, hey, you are a player that is unproven, that's looking to establish value. Come here on a 1 or 2 year deal and play and go earn yourself a big contract. Or we'll give you that big contract that maybe you don't deserve all the way just yet. Those are your two options. So I think that's fair and very real. Denise says, we learned that there's moves to come, edge and wide receiver. I think they will do both of those things in free agency. I think that is totally to be expected. and we'll kind of maybe talk here in a little bit about what that looks like, what kind of tier we're going to be in. Curtis says the Titans are not as fun as Ran. Also very true. The one thing about Ran that you have to say is he gave for some fun off seasons with his aggression. The free agency day was Easton. This was your first free agency period with A to Z Sports.
Right.
It was shocking how little we actually had come out, because I've grown accustomed to this idea that on free agency day, you pull your hair out because a move happens, you start working on your article, you try and make a phone call, whatever. I'm sending texts and calls. And as I'm doing it, another thing is coming out and another thing is coming out. Like that's what happened last year.
Yeah, I remember it was Tony and Lloyd and Kenneth, bang, bang, bang. And you're like, all right, well.
Yeah, well, and then I think they re-signed somebody, and just as they re-signed somebody, like the Ridley thing bombed in, and you were just like, oh my God, I don't know what to do now.
Well, that one came out of nowhere. Yeah. And then, they're trading for Snead. Okay, all right.
Yeah, they gave us a nice little pace yesterday, where it was actually like a reasonable pace with a couple signings and spread out signings that were a few hours apart.
I had somebody tweet at me yesterday. They were like, Ram would have had Javon Holland signed in the first 15 minutes. Last year was a movie. And I was like, yeah, but what genre was the movie? How did it turn out? Did it end up being a thriller, a horror movie? Like what? How did that movie end for you?
It ended up being a thriller that like was sort of like Black Mirror, where like the ending is just kind of like, I didn't like that.
You ever seen Seven with
yeah.
It's like the end is like, what's in the box? What's in the box?
Yeah. All-time movie, awesome movie. But yeah, it was not a horror. It was not a direct, like, we didn't know it was scary when it started, but then you kind of got to the end and was like, that didn't make me feel very good.
You know, maybe it was a horror. Maybe it was one of those like Cabin in the Woods style teen screamer, where it's like a bunch of hot teens. The first half of the movie, they're having pool parties and having fun. Everybody's hot and sexy and having a great time, having a drink. And then everyone dies in the middle of the night in the cabin in the woods.
It's a Scream movie.
It's Scream? It's Scream 7.
That is the plot of Scream, is always hot teens that are like, woohoo! Wow, horror movies are
nothing
crazy,
matters.
Right?
We'll live forever, and then they all get killed.
Then they all die, and it's also funny the entire time. It also just kind of makes you laugh at the horror, and that's what we were dealing with. So I like that. So good call by Curtis there. That we suck again, sadly, is what Titan Bro learned. Draft to develop is what we learned. That they are aligned with Big Ten Jeff on what to do, that they're going older at safety. Michael says that maybe because some of the young premier safeties signed, so they'll probably go for a shorter term contract, which I think is fine. That we need to have low expectations. I do think this is true. I think Mike Borgonzi told you as much, that like in 2025, it's the year of lowering expectations, as much as that sucks to hear. Hopefully we'll see what the draft goes, how the draft goes, but a young quarterback would do a lot to give people some excitement, but it does also mean that expectations need to be tempered here for year one of the Borgonzi era.
The focus is progress, not contention.
Yeah.
You can be excited about progress. You just have to realize it's not necessarily contention.
Slowly filling the gaps. We got same old Titans. Let's go ahead and get in that Brinker is in charge. Brinker pulling the strings. I don't agree with this at all. I
think what you want to think at this point, man. We've made this as clear as we can at this point.
Is this because Dan Moore's agent negotiated the contract with Chad Brinker? Because I will say that is Chad Brinker's job, is the cap. That is his function in this free agency process.
He's the paperwork guy. They made a decision. They're like, hey, can you handle the paperwork, Chad? And Chad's like, yeah, I got it.
Or they go to Chad and they say, hey, Chad, we want to bring in Dan Moore. Let's find
how much money we got. Yeah.
Let's figure out how we can negotiate this with the cap. And then Chad is like, what if we gave you 30 in year one? And that's how that conversation goes.
It's not like Mike walked down the hallway to Chad's office. Like, hey, Chad, what you been up to? He's like, oh, I just signed us a tackle. Oh, you did?
Yeah.
No, it was not like that. Yeah, man, I got us a guy. You're going to love him.
I will say, so I actually have a pretty strong take about this, because what has the offseason been about? It's been about that number one pick. It's been about quarterbacks. It's been about figuring out exactly what the Titans are going to do. And I'll be honest, I have gone on a roller coaster trip trying to figure it out myself on what I think is most likely. At the end of the NFL season, I was pretty confident that if the Titans were going to draft a quarterback, that Shedeur Sanders would end up being the guy that they liked after they did their evaluation.
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of how I felt about it, about the fit of Sanders within Brian Callahan's offense. I have not changed my feelings about Shedeur Sanders as a prospect, but I do believe now that the Titans would take Cam Ward instead of Shedeur Sanders based on the things that I've heard about the team. That being said, would they take a quarterback? Because the vibe that was also given out to you, to me, to a lot of people for the longest time was that their preference was to trade the pick at 1-1. That Abdul Carter was a really attractive option for them, that they could trade down, that veteran quarterbacks were in play with a Matthew Stafford or a Sam Darnold. And these were all the options that were on the table. Well, over the last few weeks, it has sort of narrowed to really three options in my head.
Three, okay.
Sam Darnold signing with the Titans, Cam Ward being drafted by the Titans, or the Titans simply punting on the 2025 season and playing somebody like Daniel Jones. Like, those seem to be the most prominent options. Now, Sam Darnold is not an option. Sam Darnold is a Seahawk, and as soon as that Geno Smith trade happened, that felt like it was writing on the wall for where Sam Darnold was going to go.
Yep.
The Raiders have a quarterback now. So, like, trading back to number 6 with the Raiders is gone. The Jets have a quarterback now.
They technically have a quarterback. Yeah.
The idea with the Justin Fields thing was that they were going to commit to him in 2025. I don't see the Jets trading up to number 1 overall at this stage in time.
Yeah, trading up, no. Taking a guy, maybe, but not trading up.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
So it's really you and the Giants are like the two teams, and the Browns, right, that are sitting there.
People keep counting out the Browns. The Browns are quiet. They're a little too quiet.
The Browns, the Giants, the Titans sitting there. Kirk Cousins may be available. Aaron Rodgers definitely available. 2 quarterbacks in the draft.
Russell Wilson wants you to know he's super available. He wants you to know really bad that he is available.
Need a guy. Hey, the Steelers need somebody.
Listen, Russell Wilson is facing down retirement at the moment. It's not great.
Well, listen, those are the guys, right? And what I learned yesterday was that I am now more confident than ever. And I wrote an article on A2ZSports.com locking it in that Cam Ward will be a Tennessee Titan. That is what I feel like I learned yesterday, because we know that the expectation for the Titans is not to compete, not to contend, as you said, Easton. It is to make progress. But the idea that you're going to have this run to the playoffs is not realistic for them. And so if I eliminate that Sam Darnold option, right now, my 2 avenues for the 2025 season are a punt with a Will Levis, Daniel Jones type of competition, Mac Jones, whatever it is, at quarterback in 2025, or it is Cam Ward at number 1 overall.
Mm-hmm.
And you pay Dan Moore $82 million with $30 million straight away, guaranteed in 2025 to come and be your left tackle. It is signaling to me that getting solid offensive line play is essential, and you're willing to overpay to do it. Are you paying
that is a only the best for my child move. That is we are only going to treat our precious little angel with the very best, and if it costs a little too much, that it's worth every penny.
You're not paying, at least in my head, you're not paying $30 million in 2025 to Dan Moore to make sure that Daniel Jones has average offensive line play.
Well, zoom out, right? Let's look at the last 2 years, and I'll let you keep going. But we're not saying that Cam Ward is going to be the Titans' pick. But what I am saying is that in the last 2 years, they spent the 11th overall pick, the 7th overall pick, a 4-year, $50 million contract, and a 4-year, $82 million contract on 4 stud linemen.
Yep. Like I I think you have a young offensive line. You've have a controllable offensive line now. I don't know what you do at right guard, but you have
They're going to make a
JC,
move.
JC Latham for 4 years, Peter Skoronsky for 3 years, Lloyd Cushenberry for 3 years, Dan Moore under contract for 4 years. So your contracts on the roster are a sustained offensive line to get you damn near through a rookie contract of a quarterback.
Yep.
This is setting you up to make that draft pick. You are spending big money on that position. I think the writing, and then this is also partnered with what did we learn about NFL free agency day one? Well, that Sam Darnold's a Seattle Seahawk, that Justin Fields is a New York Jet, that destinations for a trade up to the number 1 overall pick are starting to come off the board. And it is just pointing greatly to the direction of Cam Ward to the Tennessee Titans. And yes, I am fully now. Hey, I stand by everything that I said about Shedeur Sanders. I think I would like Sanders over Ward if it were me making the pick. I think it will be Cam Ward for the Titans at number 1, and that is what I learned yesterday.
Yeah, I'm with you. And this is not particularly new in the sense that what we knew post combine, and I wrote an article about this a couple weeks ago, or however long ago the combine was. Time is weird now. That we know that Cam Ward's going to be the first pick. We've known that for a little bit. We didn't know necessarily who was going to make the pick, but we knew Cam was going to be the first pick, and then the Titans had the first pick and were liable to make that first pick. What I think I'm with you on yesterday. By the way, Daniel Jones, he's down to the Vikings or the Colts. It's the Dan decision. We're all going to be on the edge of our seats all day waiting for the Dan decision.
All right, real quick, the Dan decision,
Dan decision 2025.
What's the better move there for Daniel Jones to play football?
Colts, long term. I think I think Vikings he'd play earlier, but I think Colts eventually he'd end up playing more because they are going to get hurt.
Okay. I think the argument is that if you end up playing in Minnesota, like let's say JJ McCarthy gets hurt, you get a chance to play in Minnesota.
Hurts him again? I hope not.
Well, or JJ McCarthy's bad, also a possibility.
Yeah, but it'll take a while for them to figure that out, though.
But if you get to go to Minnesota, he's gonna have success in Minnesota. Like he'd be good enough in Minnesota.
It would be easier to have success in Minnesota than Indianapolis. This is true.
Yeah, like Indianapolis, he can play, but like,
well, you make a compelling argument, and that's why today we're going to spend all day on the Dan decision 2025. Just stay tuned. Anyways, back to what we were saying. I'm with you that yesterday. I said this to you in a text message yesterday. I'm about as close to certain as I can be without being 100% certain. So I guess I'm like 99.5% certain that we're going to be meeting Cam Ward here in about 2 months.
Yeah,
and a month and a half.
What you and I texted is I fully agree with that. Is if the Giants call and they do something dumb.
Correct. The reason that 0.5%, that 1% chance that we're still holding out on is if the Browns or the Giants over the next 7 weeks, they're in solitary confinement. They have a lot of time to themselves, a lot of time to think, a lot of time to come up with some harebrained ideas.
Look, he's looking at a ticking clock right now.
Right, exactly.
Like, uh-oh.
A lot of time to sweat and get a little crazy. And if they send their kingdom, then they could get the pick.
Yeah.
They could. But barring that happening, and again, it will take them doing something that they're not currently prepared to do at all, something that's probably pretty stupid. It's going to be Cam Ward. And that's great news. That's exciting. That's super cool.
Exciting. And that's what I've wanted the whole time. Not Cam Ward specifically. I did advocate for Sanders, of course. But Cam Ward does bring volatility that I'm scared about, but is exciting. Like it's a ceiling that's at least exciting. And I've advocated for the Titans to take a quarterback with the first overall pick since they got it, because those picks just don't come around.
Right.
And I think you've got that sustainability on the offensive line that you need. And then I think, Easton, we can go, because I think I know your answer to this as far as like what else did we learn? Well,
let me give one last thing, by the way, on the quarterback thing before we transition. One last little clue, I think, is what the Titans haven't done. And when you look at the backup tier of guys that are the free agent quarterbacks that are floating around right now, here's the reality: the Titans aren't They aren't really in on any of these guys. They're not. I don't think they're targeting a guy. Is what I'll say.
Yeah, Sam
They
Darnold
they,
is
they are
gone.
waiting around for somebody that's going to be a suitable backup. Who right now all of these guys are trying to get their max money. They're trying to pay whoever's desperate. They're trying to
Let's
get
bring
the
Marcus
last the
back.
last girl at the middle school dance looking for a partner, and that's because they're not looking for they're looking for somebody that can be a suitable backup to their young quarterback. They're not in on Russell Wilson. They're not in on they weren't on Justin Fields. They're not in on Daniel Jones. They're not in on
Let's bring
who
Marcus back.
well, I think they would be in on Marcus if he decides to leave the Commanders. I don't know why he would leave the Commanders,
Joe
but that would
Flacco,
be.
Mason Rudolph,
I think
Mac
Mason Rudolph's a
Jones.
real possibility, like it or not. I think Mac Jones is a real possibility, like it or not. I think Jameis Winston is. I think Russell isn't just because of all of the
Russell,
things
he
that.
wants to play, and
Right. I mean, but if he gets desperate, who knows? If it's Russell, it'll be like a way down the road thing. But yeah, that's another little clue for you. So now we can transition to my answer.
yeah, well, because I think what we're halfway there, right? Because what did we learn? Well, we learned, I think, and you think, what the Titans are going to do in the draft. And that's at the first overall pick, but it's also in the second round. Because when you look at the Titans' needs, right, there was a 3 to 4 premium needs, things that were obvious. They have to address this. It was the quarterback position. It was offensive tackle. At some point, you have to add a offensive tackle. It is wide receiver and it's edge. Wide receiver, I think we've known was less likely to be something that they do at the top of the draft or spend big money in free agency. I don't think it's out of the question that they could take a wide receiver at 35 if the right guy fell to them.
Luther Burden, 35. Lock it in.
Matthew Golden, I think if one of those guys
He ain't
falls,
making it there, but I'd love it.
I don't
I'd
think
love it.
Burton's not making it there either.
No.
But I think
but Burden's being left out of first round mock, so somebody knows something. Just side note there. I don't know what's going on.
If it was Burden, if it was Golden, if one of those Emeka Egbuka somehow falls out of the first round and is sitting there at 35, they love him. And I think that could happen.
Everyone loves him, for the record. He's like a quarterback or wide receiver coach on the field. He's awesome.
Yeah. But I think all of those reasons are why he's going to go in the first round.
Correct.
And I think you are pointing to, you said the offensive tackle class, not a good one, not one that the Titans like. Well, and every time I looked at what tackles could they take at 35, it was always a guy with short arms. That's probably a guard. They need 2 edges. They're going to pay one, and they're probably going to draft one.
Have to.
And so I think if you want an edge that actually can contribute to you and get after the passer, you're going to try to take one in the second round with an edge class that does actually have pretty decent depth. And so I think I'm speaking for you when I say one thing that we learned is that edge is going to be something that they look at in both free agency and the draft here.
Yes, perfect primer. You're right. My answer to this question is to piggyback off of your answer about what the number 1 pick is going to be. My answer is that, and I wrote an article about this that I imagine a lot of you guys caught a couple weeks ago. I wrote about how the seminal big picture decision of this offseason for the Titans is how they're going to square the circle of having 3 massive needs with 2 top picks, 2 premium picks.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right to mention receiver. We haven't discussed this yet, but I would almost guarantee we're going to do an episode that's very receiver based later this week, because I think right now the number 1 question, not close for the Titans, is what are they going to do at receiver? Because there's not a lot of very obvious avenues to making that work.
Everything else seems obvious, right?
Like everything else is starting to fall into place. Receiver is the one thing we were like, I just still don't know what the plan is there.
I mean, how many of these edges, a lot of these edges are still available that you can add.
I believe Kuntz, Browning, I think got signed. Odiengbo got signed. Azeez Ojulari, who I really like as a target for them. DeMarcus Lawrence is still out there. Dante Fowler's still out there, I think. Golston's still out there. Judon's still out there. Gardeck's still out there. So most of the bottom half of that list, which is where they'd be shopping in the first place.
If you sign Azeez Ojulari and then you're sitting there with a draft pick at 35 overall, you've addressed edge.
Look at the Ole Miss kid, and you're in good shape.
Yeah, is it as good as you'd like it to be? No, but I think you've got some developmental people there. You still have Arden Key on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
You bring in a veteran that can actually get after the passer, unlike Harold Landry and in one of these guys, hopefully. That makes sense. That's the obvious way for edge. Maybe there's a trade in there for an edge at some point. I think could make sense.
But that's what I wrote about yesterday, and that's why this is my answer, is that they answered that question, right? I wrote about it 2 weeks ago. How are they going to decide which of the picks to it? They have to address one of these premium picks needs in free agency. And another reason why I leave receiver out is because I've been saying this so often. People are, I'm sure, sick and tired of me saying it. I'm sick and tired of saying it. Since basically October, I've been saying on this show, the Titans are average quarterback, right tackle, and edge play away from being a good team. I've felt that way since for 5 months now, and that's why these are the three big. At the time, receiver was in better shape than it is now.
We're gonna find out if you're right.
We are. Yeah, it's so nice. The Titans are directly testing my theory. I think. We hope. And so those are the three things that I think they just did the calculus on this. I'm inclined to agree with what they came out to, right? Because what you had to do is compare the free agent opportunities to the draft opportunities with these guys. And at quarterback, it's very obvious. Like at quarterback, you're going one or you're not. And if you're looking at Cam Ward versus the crop of guys that were available for the money, it made sense to them, especially based on what we think. They're convinced on Cam Ward. They're compelled by him being a guy. Duh, makes sense, right? At tackle, they don't love the tackle class. Nobody really loves the tackle class. The tackle options this year are never good in free agency, but this year's group was like a little bit better than average just because there were like 2 or 3 actual options for teams when a lot of years there are literally just none, especially at the left tackle position. And that's why that's again why you have to overpay, because when they are available, it's a ridiculous bidding war. And then at edge, we've talked all season, right? This offseason about how this is a historically stacked edge class. You're going to find guys, it's like 10, 12 deep for guys that are going to be rookie starter impact players. You can find on day 3 these guys that are going to be guys that can contribute for you right away and make an impact.
Yeah.
And again, edge is another position in free agency where it's just there's a decent crop of guys this year, a little bit better than I think most years, but they're crazy expensive. And the best truly elite edges, like none of these guys on that list we showed a minute ago, none of them are real. Maybe Khalil Mack was one at one point in his career, but none of them are really the top echelon of dominate a game, take over a game, 3 downs, all phases of the game.
People are bullish on Josh Sweat's trajectory, but he hasn't done it yet.
He might can get there, but I'm skeptical. I'm with you on that. So the point is, you can potentially get that guy, that level of guy, in the draft this year in round 2 and round 3. And so I think the plan became very clear, right? They're going to go quarterback and edge with those 2 top 100 picks. Now, the receiver thing comes back into play, and this is what I wrote about yesterday. Read more about this in depth over at AZSports.com right now. We don't think they're trading the first pick. They might. It's going to take something that comes out of nowhere, and it's crazy. I think we're going to spend the next 6 weeks or whatever it is talking a lot about what could you trade the second pick for. And in my mock draft 2.0 that me and Ryan went over last week, Sam, I don't know if you remember this because we talked about it last week, but you were at the other side of the world. Last year, the 35th pick was traded for 2 top 100 picks. The Cardinals and the Falcons traded. That was when the Falcons came up to get Rook or Horhoro from Clemson, who it didn't quite pan out, but they traded. Yeah, they traded up. I think that the Cardinals went from 35 back and got like 42 and 80 something, which would be, to me, really ideal if the Titans could find a trade like that, get an edge, get a receiver, go into day 3 feeling pretty good about where you're at.
Yeah, you could get a decent receiver at 87 and try to address edge at 42.
Yes.
And that receiver wouldn't be a groundbreaking, like any sort of like something to write home about.
Yeah, are they your dominant X receiver? No, but are they a good starter? Yes, and that's what they need right now. Is just starters. We need bodies.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we're on the same page about this. Real quick, we've gone longer than I thought we would go on about this stuff. So we'll sort of save the what's next idea.
Let's do it.
Easton, yeah, but real quick. What are we getting today, if anything? Just rapid fire lightning mode, and we'll see. Are we getting an edge signing for the Titans today?
I think today and the rest of free agency, the only remaining big signings you see are that they take that swing on an edge guy. I don't know if that comes today or later this week. I do know that that's probably going to come at some point. And then I think it's like the Commanders last year, 1 trillion 1 year little deals that they make over the span of the next 3 weeks. I think at the linebacker, safety, maybe I think a surprising position. Some folks might be a little like, oh, really? Running back, wouldn't be surprised if they're shopping for a very specific type of running back. They want a thumper between the tackles for some dirty downs. So those are the positions I'd keep an eye on, but again, on very small deals.
I am sort of lost as well about the receiver position because many of the guys that I had on my radar for guys for the Titans are off the board. De'Ami Brown, who I thought was a real target for them, gets 1 year, $10 million to go to Jacksonville. Josh Palmer gets 3 years and $36 million to go to the Buffalo Bills. Mac Hollins was another guy that I thought could come in and just be a solid starter for the Titans. He goes to New England on a really cheap contract at 2 years, 8.4. Would have loved to see the Titans have gotten Mac Hollins for that.
I thought you hate Mac Hollins.
I don't hate Mac Hollins. I think
you told me you don't like his vibe. You said this to me a month ago. I don't like how
Mac Hollins celebrates every 20-yard catch like he's gone for 150. Like,
okay,
Mac Hollins, if you
but you want that on the team you cover. You want to have to see that every week.
If you watched a game of Mac Hollins playing any time within the last 3 years, you would be like, oh, this guy's taking over. And he's got 1 catch for 18 yards or 2 catches for 25 yards. He's good for 1 or 2 grabs a game. He's a starter, though, and I like Mac Hollins more than I like Bryce Oliver at wide receiver right now.
How dare you? Take it back right now.
I mean, I do think maybe this is pointing towards Nick Westbrook-Ikhine coming back, but
so you finish, and then I have real quickly. I have a clarification, an update, and a question for you.
Stephon Diggs too expensive, Keenan Allen too old, Amari Cooper too expensive, Brandon Cooks bad, Deontay Johnson locker room issue. Tyler Lockett? Who says no to Tyler Lockett? Maybe that's a good option.
Does his body still work?
I think so. DeAndre Hopkins, no chance. Mike Williams doesn't have it. Robert Woods, I'll pass.
Again, the return.
Yeah. You're running out of options is my point here.
Stinky. It's gross.
When you start getting down there, the guys below that group of guys, Josh Reynolds, Devin Duvernay, KJ Osborne. KJ Osborne could be a decent signing, perhaps.
Hey, how about Greg Dortch? Get the human Dortch in here. That's my guy. Bring me Dortch.
I don't think that's. I think Jalen Reagor isn't crazy. I think
these are some really inspiring options.
Tim Patrick isn't crazy.
I don't mind Tim. Sure.
Noah Brown. Olamide Zaccheaus.
I like that. I like that for them. Go get Olamide. Good player.
He had a decent year last year. I'm doing my best to find number 2 and number 3 receivers. Elijah Moore. I don't hate that from Denise, actually, at all.
Sure.
Why not? Sure. That is the point. I do think there is going to be 1, maybe 2, probably 2 signings of that tier at wide receiver coming. You think an edge is coming? I would totally agree by the end of the week. So that's next up. We'll do a little bit more detail about that. Do you have something else?
Real quick, clarification. Saw some people in the comments about the running back thing I mentioned. I do think that they're going to address it in free agency or the draft. Folks being like, the running back class in the draft is deep.
It's a power back in, like, it won't be much.
No, but it'll be somebody that's useful for them. So a power back in free agency or the draft, I'm not ruling out anything.
Running backs are going to find one somewhere. 1 year, 9.5 for Najee Harris, and he's like pretty decent still. Like, give me the Gus Bus for $3.5 million or something like that.
I'd be all in on that. So that's clarification. Update for you. I did get an update from inside the building on it. I had a lot of people asking me about Nick Westbrook-Ikhine yesterday. What's the deal with him? He's not they are taking a longer tack, he and his representation. He is not committed to anywhere just yet. The Titans would like him back, but it's going to be a bidding war with some other teams. Here's the question for you, Sam. If you had to guess today the contract that NWI gets, what do you think? Because I tweeted yesterday, last night, I said, I'd be surprised if he gets less than 2 years, $18 million.
I would agree. I've said this. I might have to pull the receipts. I told people 4 months ago, 5-6 months ago, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine would not be back on this team. People thought it was crazy. It was because I said he's going to get $10 million a year.
He might.
And Austin and I fought on this show. He called me crazy for thinking Nick Westbrook-Ikhine would get that sort of a contract. I said, you're not getting him for 2 years at $5 per.
Well,
Like
Tutu Atwell just got 10. We just saw who yesterday. De'Ami Brown got 10.
Nick Westbrook-Ikhine he might get 3 years 30. He might get 2 years 24. Like it's going to be something like that. It is the reason why I have said that the Titans would not bring him back, is because I think they have a number. This is what I've been told, is that they have a number for NWI.
Correct.
That's their number.
They have a number for everybody, for the record. This is a team that's very process oriented in that way.
They're not going to be like, oh, Nick, we really want you back. He gets a certain number. They match it. Like they're setting a value on him, and they're going to see if it's good enough. I don't think it will be good enough. I think somebody will pay him. I think Mike Vrabel will probably pay him, if we're being honest, based on how
Mike got he got his NWI. He got Hollins yesterday. You don't need another one of those.
Mike needs
Hollins is just older, worse NWI.
You know, what Mike Vrabel is doing, I love so much.
It's a great bit.
It is an awesome bit where even he's signing like linebackers to 3-year contracts. It's old Titans UDFAs that he was it Robert Spillane that you're talking about? Yeah, Robert Spillane signs, and people don't think of Robert Spillane as a Titan. It's like, nope, he was one of Vrabel's first acquisitions.
People don't think about Robert Spillane at all. Let's put that part out there right now. Nobody thinks about Robert Spillane.
3 years, $30-something million for Robert Spillane. So next time you hate the Cody Barton contract, look at that one.
Check out how much Harold's getting up there. See how that works out for him.
Harold, Spillane. Who else did he sign? He had a couple of Josh Dobbs going back. That was a great bit.
And there was some great spin zone that our buddy PK was calling out on Twitter last night, because the Patriots put out a message. They're like, we love Joe Milton. We love him a lot, and we want to find the right spot for him. We're going to consider trading him, but only for the right place, because, man, we love him. We love him so much that we just went and signed a different backup.
Fully endorse Paul's pet peeve there.
Yes.
With the national newsbreakers just being like, literally doing hey, whatever you want me to say, agent, I will say.
That's one of Paul's bugaboos, and he's right about it almost all the time.
Jordan Schultz did that it caused the whole Starbucks fight, was when he was saying like, actually it was Jordan Schultz didn't do it.
Schultz broke rank, and Rappaport was doing
Rappaport did the whole I just want to say this Matt Stafford Tom Brady meeting at a ski resort in Montana, that was random. They did not plan that. That was random. All right, man. All right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love calling it out. All right, let's get to throwing shade before we wrap up here on a Tuesday. Where am I going next? Yes, I'm going to Wilson County Hyundai. I suppose I should actually play this first, because what is a Tuesday without a throwing shade song? It rocks.
A little production value. Why not?
That's high quality stuff right there. Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process in Lebanon over at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. They're making our end of show segment happen. Throwing shade on a Tuesday. So let us know in the comments what you're throwing shade at. Easton, do you have something?
I feel like I just gave my shade. I didn't think this through. I did not have a good plan here, because I guess my shade, off the top of my head, was going to be what we just mentioned with Paul, and how these teams and these agents are like, we love this guy so much, we're going to end up trading him away. So I think that, you know what? Also, my stupid brick of a computer, until I fix it, that's my shade.
That's a good call.
That's what I'm sitting here dreading getting off the show, hoping that I can find a fix for it. It's not that it's like broken, it's that I can't get it to turn on. So maybe it is broken. I don't know. Maybe it's dead. We'll see. But that's my shade. My computer and dumb agents.
Love that. I'm gonna go the opposite of shade real quick. I don't know what this is, because it's not like I guess it's a good news, but I don't want to save it all the way for good news on Friday, because it's current events type of stuff.
Okay.
I just have to give a little tip of the hat to my Lipscomb Bisons for clinching a spot in the in the NCAA tournament. Let's go, dude. I watched that whole game. That was riveting stuff from Lipscomb. Into March, they're dancing. Lenny Acuff and the boys. What an effort from Joe Anderson. the transfer from Furman, just 25 points per game in the ASUN tournament. So
Super.
I'm pumped. And by the way, unironically, watch out whoever's playing Lipscomb.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
No, and I'm not doing.
Are they
that
going to
as
be
a-
what, 14, 15, 16 seed somewhere in there?
They might. I think they'll get a 13.
Ooh.
They're not bad. 13 or a 14 seed. I think they probably are 13. We'll see how they get seeded. Lipscomb shoots better than just about anybody in the country, and they play a zone defense that can really throw off some opposing offenses. They sort of have a Princeton style of play to them, that Princeton team that made that run to like the Sweet 16 or Elite 8 or whatever it was a few years back. Lipscomb is in that mold of they've got a lot of shooters, they jack threes, and if they're hitting their shots, you're in trouble, and there's not really anything you can do to stop them. All of their bigs can shoot, and when all of your bigs can shoot, it's fun basketball to watch in March. So if I am, by the way, because I might be the Illinois Fighting Illini on a 4 line or something like that, I want no part of the Bison.
Oh, how good would that be? Lipscomb, Illinois, round 1. Yes, give it to me right now.
It would be Easton's Super Bowl is Illinois and Lipscomb having to play each other.
Sam is devastated either way. It'd be awesome.
It can't happen.
It can happen. It needs to happen.
I don't know. I would have to root for Illinois. I would stay with Illinois. No, I'm a bigger Illinois basketball.
Are y'all hearing this?
Anyways. I'm a bigger Illinois basketball fan than a Lipscomb fan. I watch every Illinois game. I ride hard with Illinois. And
you're telling me you don't watch every Lipscomb basketball game?
I don't.
Okay.
So I would ride with Illinois. It would be, honestly, it might be a decent result. It might not be the worst thing in the world. Because let me just say this. It's a more important game for Illinois. You know what I mean? Like, Illinois wins that. Like, they can't lose that game. Like, Illinois making a run in the tournament is the expectation. If Lipscomb loses to Illinois in the first round of the tournament, we're still going to be like, great season, guys. We're pumped.
Yeah.
If Nick says, didn't you go to Bradley? I went to Bradley for 1 year. And then I'm a Lipscomb Bison through and through. Bradley is like third on my college basketball allegiances, but I feel like you only really have room for 2. So I watched the Missouri Valley championship game, but I'm a little bit more detached from Bradley basketball. If Lipscomb wins that game, it's like the Super Bowl. They win it. That's great, but it's house money when you're a 14 or a 13 seed in the tournament. So I'd have to stick riding with Illinois in that circumstance, and it wouldn't be a bad consolation, like, oh, Illinois lost in the first round. I'm pissed, but at least Lipscomb is getting national pump now,
right?
Sliding up there. Let's see. That was my one. What was my shade? Oh, I do have shade. Okay. You'll appreciate this. I need my Severance knowers to lock in real quick.
All right.
Sit up in your chair. Now, no spoilers. I'm not going to say anything that happened because I encourage everybody to go watch the show. But the most recent episode of Severance is being criticized on the internet.
Okay. I was worried where you're going with this.
No, it is being criticized on the internet and being called filler. Mm-hmm. I've seen, season 2 has been really disappointing so far, all over the internet. You're telling on yourself that you don't know cinema. A world building. I'm being.
I know you are. It's just funny.
A world building episode is not filler. It makes other one of my other favorite shows, maybe still my favorite show over Severance as of now. We'll see where Severance can get. Is The Bear. I think The Bear is just perfect peak television. It's beautiful in every way. Season 3 of The Bear, there was no significant plot developments that existed. And so people watch it and they're like, that season sucked. I'm like, no, it's setting up for an awesome season 4. Like they are teeing it up to have some real awesome stuff, but you have to build background for any of these big storylines to matter. And that is what Severance is doing, that I think is different from Lost, different from some of these shows that fall into the same sort of umbrella of type of show. Lost is just firing away. Oh, there's a polar bear. Oh, there's people there. Oh, there's like that. That's what they do all the time. And then you lose the plot because you go so far down trying to keep things moving. I love how Ben Stiller is building the world and the background and teaching you about their characters and their motivations. And it
the criticism is also just wrong. Like everybody's like, nothing happened.
It's also not filler, but which I agree with you, by the way. That
episode contains one of the biggest reveals in the entire show. Like we learned something we didn't know that was one of the biggest things we didn't know.
One of the biggest reveals in the entire series so far, and then possibly the largest plot swing for a main character in the entire show.
Dramatic character development in that episode.
Yes.
Yes. And we learned a ton about a character we didn't know a ton about, who is a compelling, complicated, crucial character to the story. Like, what are we talking about? Was it a slower episode? Yes, because in good television, you have to have pacing. And if every episode is go, 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 then you get numb to it.
Totally. And it's not filler. Orlando says, so filler? No, it's not filler. Filler is putting stuff in there just for the sake of putting stuff in there.
Right. You don't advance the plot. We learn nothing. It's slow. That's filler.
And so, I'm going to get that off there. There's slight spoilers on there. But Rod says that it could have been done in 35 minutes, proves it was filler.
It was a 37-minute episode.
37-minute episode. My one criticism of the episode is I didn't need 2 minutes of a car driving at the beginning of the episode. Didn't need to see scenic views for 3 minutes. Didn't need
fine.
That.
Okay, fine.
I'll give you that one. The pacing.
We're not saying it was a perfect episode. We're saying it was a fine episode.
No, yeah. If I think it built things that are necessary to build, and no, that is not filler. Filler is, like I said, putting stuff in there that doesn't need to be in there. Background is different from filler. Those are not the same thing.
Filler doesn't advance the plot. All that episode did, all it did was advance the plot.
Totally. We know way more about a critical character of the show, and it completely changes the dynamic. I mean, there's no
stuff that happens in a filler episode doesn't affect anything that happens after it. The next 2 episodes, the last 2 episodes of this series, of this season, are going to be almost entirely impacted by everything that happened in that episode. That episode is going to do nothing but impact the rest of the show. A
lot of season 2 has been this world building, which is probably why people haven't loved it, I guess, if you're criticizing it. But it is crazy that Sweet Vitriol, the episode that was right before it, was claimed as what an episode. This is an awesome episode. And it was entirely a flashback episode that did this very thing. Establish stuff about the past to then build characters and help you understand some of the plot that we otherwise have not seen. I think it was a different style that
extremely different
same
style.
Purpose.
Yes.
So anyways, that is my shade. I care a lot about it. But
great shade. Hey, can't wait for this week's episode. I hear good things about it.
Have you?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's significantly longer, so that's good.
Great.
And I saw not spoilers, but I did see. I'll send it to you later because the details are spoilers. I saw you can go online and see the rating for the episode, the TV rating, and then you can see a breakdown of why it was rated that way. And there are going to be some thematic elements to this episode that we've not seen before. So,
fun. Yeah, highest rated. I'm familiar with this. Highest rated episode of reality television ever is one that I was in. And so it's sometimes people know ball.
You can't throw up that. You cannot throw Sam that lob. You can't do it. That's a rookie mistake.
People on IMDb, man, they know ball. I don't know what to say. Okay.
You know me, I've always said IMDb has perfect ratings. That's how I've always felt.
Me personally never said a bad thing about IMDb. Never will.
That's right.
All right. That's all.
Were there any? I guess we're just ignoring all the shades in the comments.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, sorry.
All right, hand. I'll come back. We'll come back. Easton wants me to come back. I'll come back.
Well, because the people will let us hear it if we just ignore them.
Well, the initial ones that I was seeing were shade on the Titans front office, shade on the Patriots. It was it was all football related.
Maybe there was no dynasty.
Yeah, shade on Xavier Worthy for sure. Agreed. Throwing shade on anyone who thinks free agency is not a D grade.
Okay.
Throwing shade on the Titans front office, shade on Chris Frazier because it's Chris Frazier. Throwing shade at people who disagree with others and claim they don't watch ball. Get over yourselves. You're not a scout either. I think that's fair. Also, my
Nick,
take.
watch ball, bro. Just watch ball.
My hot take.
Watch the tape.
You know this. My favorite take is that scouts are no different than us. They just get paid to do it. When you talk to some people that work in, not all people, but some people that get paid or have gotten paid in the past to have high-ranking jobs in football, and you hear their opinions, they're kind of like, yeah, man, you're just the guy that's hip firing, dude. Like,
they're not just a guy. Listen, the way that I describe it to people is that I think the average fan vastly underestimates the difference between them and the players, and vastly overestimates the difference between them and the people making decisions.
Yeah. Denise, I love this one. Shade on the flop. Injured again.
That was a LaFlop. Yeah, it's tough.
Well, it is. I saw this tweet. It was the funniest thing. It was like LeBron has a groin injury, so makes comments about his return, and somebody replied, "There is no injury. He does this every year. It's always a groin, and it's the same time of year." It's like there was it's the Patrick Mahomes ankle.
It's the
like
old man wellness retreat for LeBron.
Going into the after week 17, Pat Mahomes is going to sit out week 18 with an ankle injury, and then it's going to be bulletin board material for the Chiefs playoff run.
Yep.
The fact that he's got an injured ankle, it's the same thing. It's obnoxious.
Mm-hmm.
All
right.
Yeah, that's good. That's enough.
That'll wrap it up.
That's all for us today. A2Zsports.com. We've got some recap content from yesterday about the Titans free agency moves. Easton and I both giving our thoughts about the moves themselves, what it means for the future. I'll have a few coming up here within the next few hours about JC Latham, about the offensive line, about what to expect coming in the near future. So keep it locked there. Later tonight, Buck Rising on it's Tuesday. So me on A2Z Sports Primetime.
Oh, exciting.
Look at me, man. I'm going to be on A2Z Sports Primetime later tonight. We'll talk a little bit more free agency and figure out what exactly you guys are wanting the Titans to do moving forward. We'll be back tomorrow morning, Easton and I, throughout the rest of the week here on the morning show. So keep it locked in. Till next time, tighten up. We'll see you later.